I've got a great episode for you again this week with another fantastic guest, Jackie Parsons. She is a travel guide, and it makes it sound so simple, but she has a business and she does guided walking tours in Australia and Italy and some areas around Italy that border on Italy. She said in the interview they do 16 between her and her husband tours a year, and they sound so much fun. I definitely want to go on one at some point in the future. And part of the reason is because I have done a walking tour. It was not a guided, it was a self-guided, and it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And she does that for a living. So she gets to go multiple times a year and experience these little excursions that she does, or they're multiple day trips. But on each day, they take different excursions, different hiking excursions on each day. And these kind of trips, they're all packaged up for you. And since she's done it so many years, she started her business in 2007, and she's actually been a tour guide since she was in her early 20s. So she really knows what she's doing. And it's like being there with locals, and she can speak different languages. So she can speak Italian. So you don't have to learn any Italian to communicate. So I wanted to have her on. I read an article she wrote and I was like, oh my gosh. I went to her website. It was so great. I thought, I need to have her on my podcast and share what she does with you. So if you're looking for an amazing trip to go on, this might be one that you want to do. Definitely research it and see if it is up your alley. So let's get to the interview with Jackie, and I'll let you hear from her about what she does and what her guided walking tours are like. Here we go. Welcome to another episode of Living Your Sparked Second Half. Today's guest I have with me is Jackie Parsons. Jackie is an international tour guide. I guess that's the best description. Is that how you describe yourself in just a short 3 words? Or
Yes. Well,
yes,
yes, 3 words. I could just say tour guide, but yes,
yes,
3 words.
yes,
International tour guide. That sounds even more exotic.
yes. But it's more than that because you own your own touring business, which is so cool. So we're going to talk to Jackie about her path, how she got started and where she is now. And she's in her 50s, so she is perfect for the podcast, and she's doing what she loves, and that is so important. So we're going to talk about how her path led her to this, but her path has kind of always been, you've always loved travel. And so you haven't really veered, just maybe starting your business out of that passion was the thing that you did a little bit later in life. But I love your story. We just met each other. I saw an article that she had written, and it struck me because my favorite trip that I ever went on, well, I mean, I love traveling, Jackie. So traveling, I think every trip is my favorite trip. It's like the current one that I'm on is my favorite. And so the one that I went on a walking tour in Tuscany in Italy was, I think, one of the top, if not the top. And I think part of it was it was just such an unknown. Like I didn't know, we didn't book the hotels. We just booked the tour, and they dropped us off in a city and said, here's a map and walk. And it was just like, step by step, go 100 yards, turn left at the goat farm. And it was just so much fun to come upon the town that we were going to stay in, and come upon the lodging that we were going to stay in, and just have that unbridled trust that we would be taken care of. So you have tours that are identical, it looks like, same places that we went on. Of course, you do more because you do other places as well. So why don't you introduce yourself and then what you do and what you have to offer? And of course, I'll share her website so you can take a look. But for anyone who is looking for a fun trip to go on, something that Jackie has would be fantastic. So I thought that's why I wanted to bring you on so you could share what you do. And it might be just that somebody is listening and it sparks their travel bug.
Thank you, Laurie, and thank you for inviting me today. And I'm delighted to be here. So, yes, what our business does, it's called Hedonistic Hiking, and we run all-inclusive guided walking holidays in Italy and in the countries bordering on Italy. So we do a tour that starts in Slovenia, one that starts in Austria, one that starts in France. But because we have lived in Italy since the year 2000, that's been our home for half the year, then we have a huge affiliation, fluent in Italian. And so we offer the style of tour that you, Laurie, enjoyed so much. The one difference is that our tours are guided. So they're small groups. We have maximum of 16 people, and people come from, well, English speaking. So we have a lot of Australians, lots of people from the United States and Canada and from the UK as well. And they join together, and it is like traveling with a bunch of friends because you have like-minded people. You have this wonderful, you don't have to worry, you just go out for a beautiful hike in beautiful countryside. As your tour leader, I will be giving you little snippets of the local history, the local culture. We take you on trails that you're very unlikely to meet other hikers, but you will meet the locals. And speaking Italian, then we can chat to the locals and answer your questions, answer their questions. So it's a really fully immersive experience. And we started the company in 2007. So have been established for quite a long time now and have a great network of people, of hoteliers, of restaurateurs that have now become our wonderful friends as well. So
Yes, I can
it's almost
imagine.
like I'm introducing you to the people I love over in Italy, and of course the foods I love and the wines I love too.
Yes. It's kind of like behind the scenes, right? When you like know somebody that you're going to visit, I think of MGM Studios or something, and then they take you behind the scenes of where a movie's made. But it's like behind the scenes because you don't get that when you're just a tourist and staying in a hotel. I would have never gone on a non-guided tour, but we were traveling with somebody. He had been in the CIA and he was really good at navigating. And it was actually his idea to go on non-guided. He wanted to do that. So I was like, okay, I trusted him, but I would go on a guided. I think I would
Yeah.
be much more comfortable.
And the non-guided tours, there's several companies that do that. They're very well set up because you get lots of information from them. I think the difference is going with a guide, somebody that has the local knowledge can open those doors to get to know the locals. Because I think people love traveling and everyone's looking for that, let's say, authentic experience. But what we can offer is something really genuine. You really feel, even people say to us that when I arrive in a hotel, I get a big hug, and people feel that being part of the hedonistic hiking group, they really feel that they've got that welcome because they're coming in with me and they know that they're going to get very well looked after. And it is just a beautiful way to travel. Like I love what I do, but I can see that the people who travel with us really enjoy it. And we welcome people. I think traveling with people of different nationalities is also interesting. It makes for very lively dinner time conversations. Also, it's a fantastic way to travel if you're a single traveler because
Mm.
when you're a single traveler, you want a bit of adventure, but you don't necessarily want to go and sit in that restaurant on your own of an evening. So it's really nice to have a group of people with whom to sit and chat and spend the evening, but you have time if you want to have that peace when you're walking. You don't have to all be together in a big bunch because I think it is so therapeutic to be walking in nature. So it's nice to chat to people, but some people just like to listen to the silence and absorb the nature as well.
Yeah, it was interesting when we went, there were six of us, and we sometimes we'd split up and walk individually, and sometimes two of us would be together, and it wouldn't be like my spouse, it would be somebody else. And yeah, so it was very meandering and flowed with. We even found this was one of the coolest experiences. We came upon this church that had this iron gate, and my youngest daughter, who was an adult, and she had come with us and she saw an owl stuck, trapped
Oh,
in the iron. His leg was, if you think about how ornate an iron fence is, and it
yes.
had this, it just gotten its leg trapped in this corner of the iron, and it couldn't get out, and it was going to exhaust itself and die. I mean, it couldn't eat, obviously. And so we were able to free it. And so that was just a part of like, oh, we ran into this animal that we saved as part of the
How
experience.
beautiful. An
Yeah.
owl. How lovely.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. One of the things you said on your website, which I loved, is that you love food, wine, and walking. So that's like what it consists of: food, wine, and walking. Who wouldn't want to
So
go on
true.
that?
And
Yeah. Yeah.
several guests arrive and they say, I love the order, Jackie, that you've written those three things in: food, wine, and walking. But for us, the three go together so well. So
Hmm.
the
And you
it's
don't feel
in
guilty,
Italy.
right? You
No, you
eat
don't.
and then you walk it off. And how long do you
Exactly.
go? We were like, I want to say it was like 15, it was like 12 to 15, 16 miles between from place to place that we would walk.
Okay, so yes, we would, a short day for us would be only 4 miles, but a long day would be maybe 16 miles. So all
Hmm.
of our tours we grade from level one to level five. And on our website, we have a lot of description about how challenging the walking is, how much ascent, descent there is. But we're not racing. It's just they're great holidays for people who want to be active. As you say, they want to enjoy all the beautiful culinary delights that Italy has to offer. And they want to do it guilt free as well. So we're obviously in the hotels, we have a wonderful breakfast, we set off, and then lunchtime, there's two people on each tour. There's myself or my husband as the guide, and then we have somebody we call the tour manager, and they will spend the morning going to the local markets, going to small shops to buy up the wonderful local produce, and then they park their minibus in a really scenic location and they'll spend the morning preparing like lovely salads and healthy things to eat. So as you will come around the corner thinking, oh, I'm a little bit tired now, I'd love a little pause, and there'll be this table laden with like healthy food, freshly made salads, some of the local salami, some cheeses, bottle of wine if you want a little glass of wine with your lunch, and you can all just sit down and relax and have the picnic, and then in the afternoon continue walking. So being a guided tour, you then have that option. So if someone in the morning didn't really feel like going hiking, they could hang out with the tour manager, help with the shopping, just sit there with a book and look at the wonderful views whilst the lunch is being prepared, and then maybe walk the afternoon, or vice versa. So there are a lot of options there. And then hiking in the afternoon, in the evening, we're always in a lovely restaurant, and that might be a Michelin starred amazing restaurant, or just as likely it could be a simple trattoria with a wonderful nonna who's cooking this wonderful fresh pasta. So we select the menus, choose the menus, so you have a really good sort of variation of food through the week. Sometimes we have a little cooking class as well, so people have a laugh and prepare their own dinner. So it's fun, I
We
think.
did a cooking class before we went on our walking tour in Florence, and they had set up where we went into a restaurant and we had different stations. I was in the
Yes,
station
yes.
that made almond biscotti. So
Oh, how
I
delicious.
I made that.
Mm.
And then my husband was in the pasta making station, but it was so much fun. Yeah, it sounds like it is almost like a bachelor date, like going on the bachelor or the bachelorette. Like I'm envisioning like walking, hiking, and turning the corner and seeing this beautiful table with food on it. I feel like that would be like what it would be like being on that show. So that's pretty cool. But you're dating 15 other people, or not
You
dating, but
are,
you're
you
you're on a
are.
date. Yeah, on a date with that 15 other people. So tell us the backstory, because you and I were talking before I hit record, and this is something you've loved your whole life. I mean, you from your early 20s were a tour guide taking people on bus tours, and you're British. And so you have to tell the story about how you met your husband. You met your husband, he was a tour guide, but he was Australian, and so you live part time in Australia, And part-time, I guess you travel, you live in Italy. You do have a home base in Italy?
We do in Tuscany, so probably very near where you might have hiked right past my front door, Laurie. Who knows?
Yes, yes. We even actually got very dehydrated and saw a woman in her front yard and she was watering her plants and we asked for water. And so, yes, we were able to communicate that, although none of us spoke Italian. I'm fascinated with people who know different languages. It's always been a dream of mine to speak a different language, but I've never put any time into it. I had Spanish for 4 years in high school, but of course, trying to communicate in Spanish, it's just a different world. I can read it, I know the alphabet, but there's different dialects and they people speak really fast. So yeah, I think it's so cool. You it sounds like you know Italian and you know French
And
and
Spanish
Spanish.
as
Yeah,
well.
that's
Yes.
great.
Although Italian is my best language now because we live there. But I was very lucky. I went to a primary school that from age 6 started teaching languages. So I started French from an early age. Then at high school, I took up Spanish and continued with the French as well. Learned a little bit of Portuguese. I had a very inspirational teacher. I know that for many people, there's sort of one teacher maybe that you carry with you through your life. And this lady, she was inspirational in so many ways, but she was a wonderful teacher and really could see amongst her pupils who were the ones she needed to push really hard, the capabilities of everybody. She was absolutely fantastic. So I loved languages all the way through school. And I spent some time in holidays living with a family in France and then time in Spain as well. And the Italian came later, but with Spanish and French both being Latin based languages, I did pick up Italian fairly quickly. And then once living there, you then learn everything about how to speak to the electrician or speak to the mechanic or whatever it is. So you become more fluent and then, of course, have friends there as well. So, yes, I love speaking Italian. I'm a chatty person. So I think when you learn languages, it's much easier if you're talkative because you then have lots of opportunity to practice as well. So, yes, languages was my thing. I'd studied it at university. And then after university, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. I'd studied Spanish and business studies, but business studies was more to placate my lovely father, who really wanted me to do something sensible. And funnily enough, I did end up using my business studies, maybe. But after university, I went off and I worked initially for this travel company taking young people, so 18 to 35-year-olds, on coach tours, 50 plus people at a time around Europe, anything from 2 weeks to 6 weeks on a journey. So that was great fun. I was young and I was the same age as a lot of the clientele. And of course, I met my husband at the time. He was the classic, he was the coach driver at one point, and I was the tour manager. And I wouldn't say, well, passion blossom maybe, but then later love blossomed. I could see that he was a man after my own heart. He was an adventurer as well.
Yeah, a lot in
So
common.
yes,
Yeah.
we had a lot in common. We had a lot in common in that way, and talked a lot about our dreams for the future. I had a little foray. Then we based ourselves in England. I trained as a high school teacher and went into the classroom for a couple of years and enjoyed the challenge of teaching teenagers, and then really felt that we wanted to live outside of England and really in Mediterranean Europe. And by that time, Italy had become very important to both of us. We'd spent a lot of time there through work. And so we really looked for how we could just up sticks and move across to Italy. And that's where I think the match with my husband worked. It was so good because I'm more of a risk averse person and he is has that wonderful Australian like characteristic of thinking that you're going to give everything a try, like being very up for taking a risk. So I'd always be the all the things that could go wrong, and he'd be the well, you don't know until you try. And I think I've taken a lot of that on board. I've learned a lot in that. So we then moved to Italy, got jobs working as freelance tour leaders, but for a hiking company, because by then we felt older and we wanted to stay in one place, lead older people, slow down the pace, go hiking rather than being traveling on a coach. And we did that for a few years, but we really, by then, we knew that we wanted to set up our own business. So
I
we
love
then
that
started.
you did that because it was like a stepping stone to starting your own business.
It
Learn,
was.
yeah,
Mm. And
yeah.
I think at the time we didn't necessarily realize it was
Hmm.
a stepping stone. I mean, we were young. I think it seems young now. We were sort of around about 30. So at that time, we still weren't too sure, but we knew we wanted our own business. We knew we wanted to live in Europe somewhere, and we loved hiking.
Yeah, I feel like you're doing what you're passionate about and not
Exactly.
realizing you're building these skills that were going to teach you, oh, I could do this better. I could do this in a way that serves exactly the people I want to serve and in the places I want to serve. And I think that's so great. So, was it him that kind of pushed to
The
start your own business?
company,
Yeah.
I think it was both of us because he's very much an ideas person, but then I'm the more practical, making the idea, taking the ideas to the next level. So we had a lot of conversations, but I think it was him that made me take that final leap because I was thinking, oh, we might just test the water a little bit and try and do two things at once. And he was like, well, let's just do it. And so we did. We took the leap in 2007, and
Did you just
the
start with
as
one and say, okay,
we
let's
did.
try it and see what we think?
We did at that time. So that was my sole job doing our company. And Mick had another job with a different coach touring company. So he had a sensible job, shall we say, with some sort of income. And I was able to do the research and make the contacts and do the hiking. It was wonderful because I was like researching new tours. But we started with one tour in 2007. Then we brought in a few more tours in 2008. And then at the end of 2008, the financial crash kind of happened.
Oh, yeah.
And we thought, I remember sitting back here in Australia thinking, oh, crikey, what's going to happen now? And Mick, he's a very practical man too. So he would go off and get other jobs. I'd be sitting in front of the computer tearing my hair out. That's not his skill at all. So he'd be practical, getting out of the house, probably getting away from his crazy wife, but going out and earning a living, doing whatever, bringing in a little bit of money. And I'd keep the company going slowly. And we thought, well, if 2009 we're more or less the same level as we are in 2008, if we survive, then that's a good sign. And so those first 3 years, I often compare them to like a hamster in a cage and you're in on one of those wheels that goes spinning around. And I felt like that. I just felt I wasn't coming up for air. And at the same time, we'd moved to Australia as well. So we had our base in Italy, but we'd actually decided to settle and establish our business here. So it's an Australian based business. And so for me, that was huge. Moved away from Europe where I'd spent all my younger years, and we were sort of settling here, and then we were starting a company as well. So yes, when I look back at it now, I think, crikey, that's made me realize that I am resilient, and it taught me a lot.
Mm.
There was probably quite a bit of screaming and shouting and tears on my part, I'll admit that, but we got through it. And I think with anything, if you get through, then you come out stronger at the end. And at
Mm.
the end of 2009, I sort of felt you could come up for breath, and suddenly we started to get more bookings. And then, just with any company, if you're delivering a product and doing it well, something that people are enjoying, then it just grows. It's like a snowball effect. So, just then over the years, we've grown as large as we want. We don't want to get any bigger than we are because we think that our point of difference is that we are always the leaders on the tour, and neither of us want to sit in a back office and watch people doing what we love to do. So we'll never get bigger than we are. We only ever have one tour at any one time. So yes, we were growing beautifully, and then of course the pandemic hit. So we
Maybe
got
having the
through that.
experience in 2008,
Exactly.
made you go into this with a little bit more. Although the thing I think that was scary about the pandemic is we weren't really sure how long it was going to last.
I know, and I think yes, it was very scary. And here in Australia, we were very locked up for quite a while. So it really did put the brakes on our business. But we were lucky in the fact that we'd been in business for quite a long time by then. So we had a big following and a big following of people here in Australia. So we were able, like every other tour company, to start developing more domestic tours, which saw us through. And we had a great following of people who would just literally come along. And I think they enjoyed doing the walking tours, but I think also they did them because they thought, gosh, we want hedonistic hiking to be survive this and come out the other side. So, and we
Oh,
got
that's
lots of
great.
lovely messages from people in the United States who obviously we couldn't see, but just people saying, how are you? How's it going? Can't wait to travel again. So, yes. So I think that makes everything even more poignant and it makes you realize that you really are doing what you love to do. So,
Yeah, that's the advantage of having different excursions and different tours is because somebody who experienced one with you would want to come back and spend time with you, but have another experience. And I know
yes,
that
it's amazing.
that yeah, you can go on the same tour and still have a different experience because the people are different and you might have changed things up a little bit. But I love that you expanded because for people who want to come back, I'm going to
Yes.
Thailand for a yoga retreat in March, and I went with the same couple who did it in Greece. They do yoga retreats all around the world. And so that was 2.5 years ago. And so I know it's going to be in different place and different people. So excited about that. So that's great. That says a lot for what you do that people are coming back and doing different tours with you. I want to go on one.
Yes.
I'll have to,
Come, come.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
could go
it's
back and
wonderful
look
for
and see.
us.
Yeah. Because they're
It's lovely
different
for us
ones.
to,
Hmm.
yes, we usually run about 16 different tours in a year, and we have about 18 or 19 in our repertoire. But as I said, because we only ever want to have one at any one time, we just do 16. We start at the beginning of May and we finish at the very end of October. But we have people who come back time and again. We have a couple of people who have done 20. We have few who've done 15 because we recognize the fives, and we have lots who've done 10. And yes, so lots. And it's really lovely because people will come along and they'll ask about somebody they met the year before or somebody they've met 2 or 3 times. And sometimes people will make friends on a tour and then say, oh, which one are you going to do next year? Or I'm going to not come next year, but the year after, which one would you do? But even if you come not knowing anybody, within like a few hours, you'll feel that you're really welcome. I love watching how people get chatting and get to know each other. And by the end of the first day, you'll see people chatting away and having a laugh and finding sort of mutual connections. It's fun.
Yeah, I bet it's a thrill to watch people experience the trip and
It is.
what they go through and just everything about the trip.
Yes, I
I
think
think
because
that's
I can
neat. Yeah.
imagine how I would feel going on a tour where I didn't know anybody. I'm a chatty person, but turn up and there's 15 other people you don't know. Yeah, that's quite scary. I'm always very aware on the first evening when people come down, we always have a pre-dinner drink all together on the first evening. And you watch out for the people traveling on their own because, it is scary. You walk downstairs and you think, who's going to be there? But it is lovely to see those relationships develop. And also another thing that I love is people, they book the tour and you can see people eyeing each other up at the beginning. Some people, they're looking, thinking, oh, crikey, they look really fit, or am I going to be able to manage it? And for me, the thing that I find most rewarding is when you have a guest who is unsure about whether they're going to manage the big challenging hike of on say day 5, for example. Am I going to be able to do it? And they put so much trust in you, and if you say, well, yes, I think you can do it, and they do it in sort of bite-sized pieces, and just at the end of the day you can just see the joy on that person's face that they've achieved something, and maybe they've walked further in a day than they ever thought they would, but they know that they're going to be able to do it because we're helping them along and the rest of the group as well. And then, of course, we have people who they know that the physical side of things is not necessarily going to be overly challenging for them, but there's always a bit of a challenge because we want to make sure that people really feel that they've achieved something.
You got to burn
It's
off
a
the
wonderful one.
food.
Yeah, you do. You do. And you do. I do think that it is definitely guilt-free indulgence. And I think there's pretty balance. So,
Yeah, that's
what you're
great.
putting in, and it's all healthy stuff. I know that you're having glasses of wine and, maybe a bit of salami if that's what you like. But overall, you're eating, really well. So it's
Yeah,
good.
that's great. And I imagine too, it sounds like it's really flexible. If somebody feels they're not up to it on a day, like you said, they can hang out at the
Yes.
place you're staying and
Exactly, because there's myself and then the tour manager, and then so the tour manager's not hiking, they're dealing with the food and the support vehicle. So a person could either stay in the accommodation or they could be with them, or they could just do a half day. So it is flexible. The more challenging hikes, what we call our level 5 hikes, there's less flexibility, but then we have lots of other tours that if it's your first time on a hiking tour, we always say that look at the level 3 is perfect because it gives you lots of options. So there's something for everybody there.
yeah. Yeah, you said, I know people are probably curious because we have a lot of empty nesters who listen, and they're probably curious, well, did she have kids? And you
No.
said, yeah, yeah, you said that you really didn't want to have kids. And I love
No.
that you didn't, that you weren't pressured into doing something because I do see how that would have been. I mean, you can carry a baby in your backpack, but they grow up.
They
And
do. So
yeah,
it would have been very different if
you've
we
had to
had just,
homeschool them with the
yeah,
travel, probably. Yeah.
yeah.
And your husband
So we
was good with that. So you found a partner.
absolutely.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. So that's been great. And we love that we've got friends who, lots of friends who have kids. So that's been really fun. We've been watching them grow up, but we're very happy not to have had our own and to be able to do what we're doing. And our friends now, because we're in our 50s, our friends are looking at our tours thinking, oh, they look quite good. So now, the people that have been watching us for the past, close on 20 years develop our business are thinking, oh, maybe they're going to actually come and do one of our tours now. So, yes.
That's great. That's great. So you talked a little bit about the challenges in terms of the business in 2007, 2008, the economic turndown, I should say. And then you talked about the pandemic. So I see those like being clear challenges. Are there any other challenges that you faced along the way? I mean, imagine just being with this person all the time. You got to really get along. Sound yeah. Sounds like he's easy because he does what needs to be done. So it sounds
Oh,
like
don't
he's
tell
a
him.
pretty good
Don't tell him he's easy.
That's my perspective. Goes and works
Surely
when
no
he needs
husband is
to, and yeah.
easy. But I think we've developed a very good sort of working relationship. And I think the major challenges, like the economic downturn and the pandemic, we've shown that we are very strong. Obviously, as with all relationships, there's been ups and downs, but when we really need to, we are rock solid and supporting each other in that way. And we've worked out which roles we're each. So I'm very much the admin person. So if people email our company, I'm the one that answers. But that doesn't mean to say that Mick doesn't know if there's a tricky email to deal with, I'll always consult with him. And then out on the trail, sometimes we're going off on hikes in a couple of days here in Australia. So that's wonderful because then we work together and he's doing the leading, the hiking, because I think being the Aussie, he needs to be the one who's telling the stories, the history, spotting the wildlife, etc., and keeping our guests safe from any snakes or anything. And I'm the one who deals with the food and wine side of things. So that's
Mhm.
great. And my mum's just been visiting from the UK for the past month, and I said to her, it's great working with Mick in the way that we hardly need to communicate sometimes because we just know exactly that the other one's doing what they need to do.
It's great.
So sometimes we just work in there. We have a little house and we just work together and doing what we're doing. It does work, but it definitely adds another element of challenge to a relationship because you are all together. Everything is all in one basket, and of course, we're not disappearing off for hours at a time. Our life in Italy is very different to our life here in Australia because here in Australia we're together all the time. And then when we get over to Italy, he might be on one tour and I'll be, heading off on another one the following week. So we're not together all the time,
Mm.
and that
Oh, I was going
works
to ask
great
that.
for us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you
yeah, yeah, yeah.
did separate tours. So, yeah.
Absolutely, lots. So we'll go for weeks without necessarily seeing each other, but very much in touch with each other. So
Oh,
it works. It works. Yeah,
can you have
that
the
works
Mick
really well
tour
for us.
versus the Jackie tour?
That we can't put on the recording.
Uh, that's cool. Now, do you ever do any tours where, say, there's a group that wants to come in, they're all friends from a club of some sort? Like, I'm thinking, although it was only seven of us, but I was in this wine club a few years
Yeah.
ago and we all went to Napa together, which was super fun. But I was just thinking maybe a bunch of ladies want to get together and
We do actually. We do have people, especially they might be celebrating a milestone birthday or they're just friends that want to holiday together. So we do most years we would have a what we like a private group who will
mhm.
block book one of our tours, and they'll say, so they tend to think about that a couple of years in advance, and they'll email and they'll say, Jackie, in a couple of years we'd like to all do the Italian Alps together, and
Oh,
so we'll
wow.
kind of block it, and they'll come along and organise that. And sometimes we might get smaller groups of people. When we first started up, and we had a lot more time in our schedule because we weren't fully booked, then we would be able to be a little bit more flexible and maybe do a group of say 8 people for 4 days here and there. But now we're happy that we have our schedule, which is pretty busy, and we're fairly booked up, and so we don't necessarily have that much flexibility for last minute groups of people
Right.
traveling together.
Yeah.
But sometimes we might get 4 or maybe 6 people who book one of our tours with other people, because I think often people will think, oh, I'm not a tour person, I don't like to go on tours. And my feeling is that our type of tour is the type of tour for people who don't necessarily usually go on a tour, because there's something different about it. You're sharing that you've already, before you even meet everyone, you've got shared interests because you love Italy, you love hiking, you usually love the food and probably like a glass or two of wine. So you're bringing together like-minded people that may otherwise never have met, and so people are often pleasantly surprised with the lovely people that they get to share a holiday with.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things also that you had mentioned is it was really important for you to incorporate your beliefs and life philosophy into the way you do your business. And I loved that because I think that sometimes people start businesses and they don't have that alignment. And I don't know that it works real well. And so my question to you would be, how does your business incorporate those things? What is your life philosophy?
I think when we started the business, Laurie, it's interesting because I think this is something that's come to me as I've got older, maybe wiser. But now I am the age of many of our guests. Our guests are sort of our age and upwards. And I see people, and I fully believe is you want to, as you get older, there's nothing to stop us doing whatever we want to do. And that's what I'm doing. I think the joy of being independent and running your own business means that I feel that I can live the life that I want to lead. And so everything about me is connected with our business, Hedonistic Hiking. I live it, I breathe it, but I love it. Like I totally enjoy what I do. People will often say, oh, what are you going to do come retirement? And obviously we have those conversations, but I feel hugely happy, hugely fortunate to get up in the morning and do what I love to do, because I'm a great believer in nature as the best medicine. And I think we all had challenging times during the pandemic. And for me, there was never a time, and there is never a time when I find that if I go out for a hike, I don't feel better. So I'll go out, rain or shine, and I love it. Sometimes with friends, sometimes on my own. But I think that helps you to share your problems. If you've got challenges, then you can discuss them with friends, or you can just walk along and listen to nature and think about things. And you usually find a lot more clarity when you come back and then start the day. So for me, that's hugely important. I think I've always been a good communicator. And I think as I've had more experience in our business, I think that have become a better communicator. And that's so important to me. The people that guests who come on our tours to be able to, for them to feel that they can ask me anything, but also the team that we work with, the team of tour managers, to be supportive for them, to talk through things when there's challenges on tours, because it's not always plain sailing. There's going to be days when it rains. There's going to be days when there's somebody who is maybe a little bit over challenged and shouldn't do the walk, and you need to work out how you're going to make sure that everyone is happy. But also the relationships that we develop with the hoteliers, with the restaurateurs. And I think that's so important as well. There's the importance of communication and the importance of building those relationships, I think makes us, our business, the sort of success it is. And being sort of happy and ready to be adaptable. And if there is a challenge, now I feel stronger and I feel that I can just take a few deep breaths and think about it and take that forward into the day. So yeah, I think my sort of beliefs are very much developing friendships, developing relationships, and enjoying nature, breathing, this wonderful world that we live in, looking after it and enjoying it as much as we can.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds to me like you are a part of the world in which you travel. I've only talked to you for a very short time, but what I can feel from you is that everything you love has been built and infused into the business that you run.
Yes,
You love
exactly.
language, you love talking. So you talked about communicating. You love travel and being on the go and connecting with people and sharing experiences with people. And I mean, that's a beautiful thing when you can build a
I
business
do.
around all those things. Yeah.
I feel so lucky. And I think when the business had to stop, a few years ago, and we weren't able to travel and able, it made me realize even more that that's what I love to do. I love a home and I love creating a home, but I love to travel away, to discover new places, to meet new people. And for me, one of the joys of our company is the fact that we create these tours and we create new tours and discover new places, discover new routes. And next year we'll have a new tour, a new itinerary, and it's great fun because we'll go out and we'll research the hikes, we'll decide where we're going to stay, and it's wonderful. So you build it all up over a few years and then you put it out there, people book, and you get the butterflies on the first day, and then they come and
Yeah.
you see them smile and you think, wow, this is great.
I love that. That's so good. So, what do you see going forward as we wrap up? It just seems to me that you're such in a happy place in life. And I would imagine that the people, I don't know how changed you are from the pandemic, but I know now when I go outside and just it's the little things that I appreciate because they weren't so available before and they were taken away for a little while. And I would imagine that the people that come on the trips now are even more appreciative and embrace that getting out in nature and having these experiences and being able to be with people and be able to travel without limitations. And so, how do you see your life unfolding in the next 10 years? When you talked about retirement, part of me often thinks about if you really find something you love so much, you never really want to retire. Sometimes when people are so eager to retire, it makes me think, well, you must not be doing what you should be doing if you want to retire. I mean,
I
it's great
totally
to
agree.
coast and
I,
on the beach and stuff, but at some point, you want to engage in some way.
Exactly. I agree. At the moment, I feel entirely happy with where we are in life. I feel healthy, I feel strong, and I think about that more. I think about keeping active. It's natural for me in our business because we are active, but I do I do think about that keeping. I was listening to one of your podcasts about keeping your bones strong, and I do Pilates and I do exercise to ensure that as I am, in my 50s, that I am ensuring that I'm going to be or lowering the risk of being injured and making sure that I can continue. And I feel probably stronger because I understand my body better now than I did, say, a decade or more ago. So I still feel confident that I can carry on. And obviously, I go to look a little bit older as the years go by, but that's fine. And I would like to think that, I can continue doing this, and our business can develop according to our physical situation. So it can be adapted if we want to. We can do less challenging tours going forward if we want to. So there are lots of ideas in there, but I'm not ready to retire anytime
Yeah.
soon. And I like to think our nephew has just become a bit involved in our business, and he's also my godson. And I often laugh with him and I say, look, you're going to need to be wheeling me up mountains in a wheelchair when I'm 95 because I'm not stopping anytime soon. So that's your duty in years to
That's
come.
awesome. I
But
love
I
that.
like to think that I will still be walking. My mum, as I said, she's just been here and she's 87 and she's not hiking up mountains, but she's still hiking. So I'm still liking to think that I'll be in my 90s and still have a backpack on. But we'll see. We can
Yeah.
just dream.
Yeah. Well, we have to mention your website, and of course, I'll put it in the show notes, but it's hedonistichiking.com, right?
Correct.
And I looked up hedonistic because for some reason I think sometimes hedonism as this like really
It's got a
gluttonous.
negative,
Yeah,
it can
yeah.
have a negative feel.
And
Yes. So,
I love the definition. The definition, it says devoted to the pursuit of pleasure.
exactly.
And it said
Exactly.
it refers to a lifestyle, actions, or thoughts that prioritize pleasure over other life values. But I think we diminish life's pleasures. They make us feel guilty because it's like, and that's a whole self care thing. I think pleasure should be a part, it should be a high priority. And
Exactly. And I think if you're getting pleasure, then you're giving pleasure. Maybe you
yes,
should be. That's what I like to think. We're
yes,
giving pleasure to other people and
yes.
in so
So,
many
so great.
ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So thank you for being with me for the last 45 minutes. It's been really wonderful getting to know you. And I'm definitely going to look you up when I'm going to talk to my husband about a future trip.
Yes,
Uh,
I'm looking forward to your booking, Nori.
yeah, since I'm going to Thailand soon, it probably won't be this year, but
That's
definitely.
fine.
And some of your tours are places I haven't been and would love to go. So yeah, I'm all for food, wine, and walking.
Great. It's a good
Yeah,
combination.
yeah. Those are my favorite things to do too. All right. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thank you.